I look back at myself sometime and I think, what advice, what would I tell that young guy in college who was on the verge of flunking out of that very same college? What would I tell myself? Well, I'd tell myself about forgiveness. I'd remind myself, I would teach myself to forgive a lot quicker, including myself. I held myself to my own pain for a long time because I kept rehashing those failures over and over and over again. And in rehashing those failures, it prevented me from moving forward. So I would tell that 20-year-old guy back then, be a little bit more forgiving of yourself and a whole lot more forgiving of other people's. To remember that Lord's Prayer that your mama taught you. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. It would have made my way a lot easier. I would also tell myself to slow down a little bit. Don't go so fast. What you rushing for? Life is coming.
I think this idea of loving yourself as a cultural obsession has no basis in reality. Here's the challenge. When you're born, what do you got to do to be loved? Nothing. Because your mother's on drugs, natural drugs, oxytocin. So you look like a lizard and she thinks you're beautiful. Right? You know, you're fat, you shit all over, you throw up, and you're still beautiful, right? For a while, you're unconditionally loved. And thank God we wouldn't have survived otherwise. You know, I love women so much. I have so much respect for women, even more so going through birth again. No man will ever fully appreciate what a woman does or what a baby demands of a mother if you're breastfeeding and the energy and the no sleep. I mean, it's amazing what women do in our life. But the point is, in the beginning, you gotta do nothing. And then the oxytocin wears off, and suddenly you do the same, scream or yell, throw your food, and now you get yelled at or hit, or the worst one of all, you get ignored. And then fear enters your body. And then the rest of your life, you're looking for, how can I get this unconditional love? And I remember in the beginning asking myself, because I studied all animals and with the level of dependency they have. And, you know, human beings have the longest period of dependency for survival of any creature other than other primates. Whales will be dependent for a year, birds for a few weeks, and boom, get your ass out there and fly, you know? It's a different world. We have this long dependency. It's just the nature of how we are. And then I thought to myself, so why don't we just have unconditional love all the time? And I think my answer is because then you never grow or give anything to life. You think everything is about you. And unfortunately, there are a large population of kids that were raised in a generation of parents that were helicopter parents that thought everything should be about the child, and they wonder why they're selfish today. Or why they, don't seem to have great relationships where you got to be with somebody else, you got to put somebody else ahead of you. That's what love is. Love is putting somebody else ahead of yourself. Loving yourself usually comes for most human beings by starting to have a value and just appreciating people, not because of what they do, not because of what they have, just because you feel their essence. And it's easier to do that with somebody you love than it's with yourself. But when you start to with somebody else and you're not judging, you're truly loving them, then it's much more natural because you're already doing the loving. You're not getting it from somewhere else. Someone may say something, look at you a certain way as a trigger, but all love is self-love. This bullshit, I don't love myself. If you've ever been someone who felt loved, you loved yourself. They didn't love you. They said something, they did something with their eyes, and you used that as a trigger to release love inside of you. But loving yourself every moment, all the time, is not the secret to success. Having appreciation for yourself is different than constantly loving. Now, in the Bible, it says, love thy neighbor as thyself. So I think it's a worthy goal and it's useful, but most people are obsessed with it. And I think get on about living a life that's meaningful and you'll love yourself. As long as you focus on you, you're not going to love you. Because the human brain is always looking for what's wrong, what to protect, what needs to be changed. It's a survival instinct. And so it's looking for things to fight or flight or try to freeze or pretend you're not there about yourself. But when you're in a bit of service, when you're trying to serve something more than yourself, that's when the higher part of your consciousness is there. That's when your heart is flowing. And when you're doing that, you're not thinking about you, and therefore you feel love. And I can tell you my own experience, no one else have to earn love with me, but my strategy has been I got to earn my own love, right? I got to be worthy of my own love. I don't do that to somebody else.
How do you do that?
Well, by helping millions of people for 44 years, now I'm finally at the stage where, I fucking love myself. I'm up there. Right. I enjoy myself or appreciate it. But along the way, I've always earned it. Now, I don't think that's necessarily healthy or not, but I like what it's done with me. If I know people that just think they're God's gift at creation and they don't add any value to any other human being and they're assholes to be around. They love themselves. So I would challenge that whole belief system. I'd say it's appreciating yourself It's loving the people around you. And the more you can unconditionally love others, the more you'll unconditionally love yourself. But trying to start with yourself when you're not doing with others, forget it. It'll never happen.
One of my favorite protocols is the daily nature walk. I love walking in the woods. I often listen to audiobooks in the woods. I call it reading while walking. Reading while walking. So I go to this place. It's sort of my creative forest. There's not a lot of people in there, and I walk for 1 hour. I breathe in the air. I look at the lush scenery. I listen to a different audiobook. It's almost like a walking meditation as well. Sometimes I don't listen to an audiobook, and I just walk, and I touch the earth. It's almost like I'm thanking the earth, connecting with the soil. Yes, I'm wearing shoes. I don't want to get too esoteric here, but there's a lot of really good research saying if you want to boost your immune system, you want to boost your happiness, you want to release serotonin and dopamine, you want to release the fear hormone called cortisol, walk in nature. And so when I walk, I connect with nature.
Happiness is one of the most studied areas of human endeavor in the history of the world. I mean, when you look at psychology and you look at philosophy, this is all I've been talking about for literally centuries. It's unbelievable. So we figured out the basics of happiness. It's that sometimes common sense isn't common practice. So people struggle for no reason. I mean, look at what we know about happiness. You know, we know basically happiness usually comes from an orientation towards the world in which we look at the past, the present, and the future in specific ways. We often tend to look at the past with gratitude and with fond recollection. Even if there were struggles, challenges, suffering, turmoil, we find our places in the past and we feel a sense of acceptance about the past. It happened. It's good. All things were as they were, and today they are as they shall be. And it's being okay with whatever the past is, finding a peace, an acceptance, and a gratitude there allows us to be a little more free in the present. And being in the present, what makes us happy? Being engaged in whatever we are really doing. I mean, really engaged in it, mentally engaged in what we are doing each day. You know, where we're challenging ourselves just a little bit, you know, where we're finding something we're passionate about, interested in, and challenging ourselves to bring our full conscious presence to the moment, to develop awareness, right? Almost all spiritual sort of texts and teachers and trainers are always trying to help people become just more present in the moment, more accepting of the world as it is, but here, you know, the power of now stuff, right? It's like, get here, be engaged, be present with the moment. And then with the future, it's all about anticipating with excitement what's to come in the future. Even if the future is scary, even if you know there's still going to be hardship, because there will be, even if you know there's going to be struggle, yep, there will be too. But finding your marks, what are you excited about for tomorrow? And if you can't find anything to be excited about tomorrow, that has nothing to do with the reality of tomorrow. It has to do with your mindset. You've poisoned yourself in pools of pessimism for so long that you've drowned yourself of hope, that you've forgotten that there is magic to life, that there is something tomorrow. You could find something. Even if tomorrow you're just going to say, you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to get up, I'm going to feel better. Just going to decide to be. Be excited about that. You know, tomorrow I'm going to go do something nice for somebody. Tomorrow I'm going to get focused into this one project I've been waiting to do. Tomorrow I'm going to make the damn bed. You know, whatever it is, find something to be excited about for tomorrow. That's the basics of everything we know about your emotional world and your mental world of happiness. So simple, right? Be accepting and at peace with the past. Be present and engaged here in the present, and be excited. Anticipate something for the future.
So me and Jada was reflecting about love. And I asked her, I said, what did she think was, you know, one of the biggest revelations that she had about love? She said that you cannot make a person happy. And I thought that was a real deep idea. You can make a person smile, you can make a person feel good, you can make a person laugh, but whether or not a person is happy is deeply and totally and utterly out of your control. I remember the day I retired. I literally said to Jada, that's it. I retire. I retire from trying to make you happy. I need you to go make yourself happy and just prove to me that it's even possible. And after we cracked the hell up, we started talking about, we came into this false romantic concept that somehow when we got married that we would become one. And what we realized is that we were two completely separate people on two completely separate individual journeys. And that we were choosing to walk our separate journeys together. But her happiness was her responsibility, and my happiness was my responsibility. And we decided that we were going to find our individual, internal, private, separate joy. And then we were going to present ourselves to the relationship and to each other already happy, not coming to each other begging with our empty cups out, demanding that she fill my cup and demanding that she meet my needs. Unfair, and it's kind of unrealistic and can be destructive to place the responsibility for your happiness on anybody other than yourself.
I have a philosophy about long-term relationships that isn't discussed very often. So for those of my friends that are in one that's, I don't know how long, but for some people long-term's a year, right? But for those of us that are in long-term relationships, I get asked often on shows, hey, what are one of the keys that I would not normally hear about that create a relationship that is still doing what you said earlier, which is so wonderful, where there really is this observation, there's separation, there's growth happening. And so there's all these things they say in a long term. Be honest with one another, be trustworthy, make sure you're communicating. One of the things that I find with my friends and I who have had long-term, really good relationships is physical intimacy still. And real attraction to one another physically. If everyone says, I want to marry my best friend, which you do, but you have a lot of friends, and you don't need to be married to all of them. And one of the things I see in relationships is they start out where there's this physical chemistry, and I know relationships ebbs and flow. I'm not just talking about sex. I'm referring to physical touching and intimacy. When I was dating Christiana, her dad was older than her mother, and it was his second marriage. His first wife had died of cancer. And oftentimes in second marriages, I see people kind of know the second time around, maybe the mistakes they made the first time. In his case, his wife had actually passed away. But when I would date her, I would often pick her up. And when you'd walk up to their home, their front door, and I'd knock to come get her, you could see into their living room. And my family didn't have this. My parents have their own dynamic. But I would go to the front door, and more times than not, Matthew, more times than not every time, on a Saturday night I'd come to pick up my girlfriend for a date, I could look into the living room and the TV would be off. I get emotional because he's passed away, but they'd be slow dancing.
Wow.
And at an advanced age.
Wow.
They just slow dance in the living room together. Now, I don't know if that led to more than that in the bedroom afterwards, but they had real physical intimacy. They weren't just friends. They were lovers in every sense. Physical lovers. That doesn't always necessarily mean, but people ask me, what's one of the keys to a relationship? Physical intimacy. It's a box you better be checking. There's got to be that touching and that physical attraction to have a passionate relationship.
And I reached a point senior year when my adjustment felt like me. I had actually convinced myself that I was this person and she me. Pretty, talented, but not stuck up. A girl who laughed a lot at every stupid thing every boy said, and who lowered her eyes at the right moment and deferred, who learned to defer when the boys took over the conversation. I really remember this so clearly. And I could tell it was working. I was much less annoying to the guys than I had been. They liked me better, and I liked that. This was conscious, but it was at the same time motivated and fully felt. This was real acting. I got to Vassar, which 43 years ago was a single-sex institution, like all the colleges in what they called the Seven Sisters, the female Ivy League. And I made some very quick but lifelong and challenging friends. And with their help, outside of any competition for boys, my brain woke up. I got up and I got outside myself and I found myself again. I didn't have to pretend. I could be goofy, vehement, aggressive, and slovenly, and open, and funny, and tough, and my friends let me. I didn't wash my hair for 3 weeks once. They accepted me like the Velveteen Rabbit. I became real instead of an imaginary stuffed bunny.
All I ever asked God for was to let me eat. Let me sit at the table with the big boys. Take me from this homelessness that I'm in and fill my coffers with spoils. You know how much I have today? I have more than I ever thought I'd ever have. I got more. God done gave me more than I asked for, because he got this thing he has called grace. Grace is, I wish I could buy it. You know, I wish it's different from both of them. Grace is when you get what you don't deserve. Do you understand that? God has this thing that he passes out called grace. You ever heard old people say, all I want is a little more grace? Because guess what? He passes it out and he gives you things you don't deserve. I do not deserve this life I have. I'm just telling you flat out. The money I make, where I live, what I drive, how I travel, how I vacation, I don't deserve it. I work really hard, but I really don't deserve all this. I don't. I ain't that good a Christian. I'm telling you flat out, I don't deserve it. But he gave me grace. He let me survive homelessness. He bought me from dogs. I've been out. Y'all don't know. I've been in it. I'm so grateful that God let me have this life he gave me that I don't even know what to do. Do you know when I was homeless, I told God every day, if you let me make it, when I get there, I'm going to tell everybody it was you. Well, guess what? I'm telling you that it was him. I have no education. I ain't got a degree of any kind. What you see today is a boy that come out the bottom who believed in him when it wasn't no sign of me getting over, who kept doing this thing that his mother taught. She said, when it gets dark for you and you can't find your way, and boy, I was lost. She said, don't forget to pray. Don't be ashamed to pray. And don't ever be too proud to pray, because prayer changes things. You have got to pray. You know what you ought to get? You ought to create your relationship with God. Because if you do that, he gonna put some grace on you. And he gonna give you some things you don't deserve. You won't need no education. You won't need to go and complete the program. You ain't got to go over here and ask nobody where they hide. God takes you to places that you never ever thought you go. I never saw myself here. But that God I serve, he saw me here. And he put me here. Now all I'm doing right now is telling you that with God you can make it. I don't know why he had you come to this show. I don't know why I'm telling it to you like this today. But if you ain't ever tried God, listen to me. You should try him. Because he's very available to you right now. He don't love me no more than he loves you. If God can pick me up, and you have no idea who you're really looking at, you don't know what I've done. If God can change me, he change anybody in this room. God is good, man. Give God a chance. I appreciate it. It's a funny thing, man, that I learned later in life. But everything that you're imagining, God puts everything he has for you in your imagination. Albert Einstein had a quote. He said, imagination is everything. It's a preview to life's coming attractions. What actually happens is God puts your real life in your imagination. See, this stuff that you've been imagining is not hocus pocus. God is showing you a preview of a coming attraction he has for you. He puts it in your imagination. The problem with your imagination, though, is you tell it to the wrong people. That's the whole problem. See, if you want to kill a big dream, tell it to a small-minded person. How many times has God showed you something so vividly clear that you just knew it was perfect? You shared it with your loved ones and your friends and they shot it down. You know why they shot it down? Because they couldn't see it. You know why they couldn't see it? Because God didn't show it to them. He showed it to you. And so all these things you've been imagining, it's been God planting seeds in your head of what he has for you. That's why when you're driving down the street and you see the car in the window, you imagine yourself driving that one instead of the one you got. Because that's the car God will give you. God is in your imagination. He ain't in your paycheck. He ain't in your current set of situations. God is in your imagination. I imagined at 10 I would be on TV. Now, I didn't get there until I was 38, but I got there. Do you know all the stuff you've imagined was really God just showing you a preview of a coming attraction he has for you? People don't understand that about their imagination. The school system would teach people the truth. The problem with school is it don't teach you how to be successful. That's the problem. College don't teach you how to be successful, nor does school. There's nothing wrong with it. If you want to be a doctor, lawyer, dentist, you got to go to school. But if you want to be successful, what you're supposed to do? You have to develop the principles of success. School teaches you how to memorize stuff. We're going to test you on it, and you recall what you've read, and we're going to give you a grade on it. Okay, when you get that degree, how you become successful, though? They don't teach you success. You teach success by changing your mental process. The difference between successful people and non-successful people, it has nothing to do with anything except how you think. That's the only difference, man. Successful people have developed a thought process. You all have it. You just got to learn the principles of success. All y'all. All of you gifted. All of you have a gift. God made you with a gift, and for all of you, gifted people. More gifted than me. You think because I'm out here, I'm the gifted one? I just got one gift. I can take information and transpose it into comedy immediately. Now that's a gift and a curse. That's a problem when you're young. You know how many tumors I done took? Fine it off. You know how many times I've been to the principal's office? I've been to the principal's office, I promise you, more than all of y'all total. 15, 20 times a year. Easy. Easy for just fine it off. Because this gift, I couldn't figure it. I didn't know how to control it. I just said what the I thought was what's funny. I ain't how you felt about it. It was displaced. I didn't have no comedy club. I didn't have no comedy career. So I just said, my mama was a Sunday school teacher. You know how many times my mama took me to church to get me prayed for? You know how many preachers done this to me? At the hill. Soon they do this, I pop right back. Ain't nothing happening. I be going, man, what is I'm coming down here getting my head hit for? And my mother thought something was wrong with me. Because I had this gift, but I couldn't fix it. But all of you are gifted. I'm telling you, I'm just waiting on them. I'm just telling y'all this. You have to understand, man, that God has a really great life for you. And he put it in your imagination. You just got to stop telling it to small-minded people. Really, man.